Good Sunday afternoon, everybody. Gonna wait just a couple minutes for people to file in and take their seats. Gonna be looking at Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, IOTA, NEO, BNB, XRP, GNT, and we'll see what time we got left. All in all, bulls holding up pretty well. We'll look at the key levels that the bulls need to maintain. Day's going pretty well, thank you. Used up all our good weather past couple days. It's been pouring all day today, but I'm about to hit the road and start traveling a lot more the rest of this summer. Heading down to Florida, and then I'm going to fly to the Blockchain in Transport Conference at the end of May. That's in Georgia. Got a wedding in Massachusetts, meeting a friend out in Yosemite, so I'll be all over the place. But I think of settling down in the Keys for a few months towards the end of the summer, early fall. Let me know if anybody's in the Keys right now. And we'll go live here in just about 2 minutes. Guess we are already live, huh? Multiple people from Croatia, Brazil, Alaska. We're all over the place. We need an app where we just walk around and it tells you where the nearest person who's interested in crypto is. All right, it's about 4 p.m. Eastern. Slovakia, Mississippi, Quebec, India, Atlanta, Northern Ireland, Connecticut, New Zealand, Trip Tinder. I like that name. That would work. Wow, someone make it. That's an app right there. I doubt you'll get people to pay for it, but if you make it free and then try and work on advertisers, crypto meetup app. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start off with the big three. We're starting with the daily timeframes. I actually made a trade on this bull break most recently, and I'll go over that in just a minute. And I'm going to take away the YouTube chat that is very distracting when I'm trying to talk, and I'll get back to that. But I'll go over that trade in just a moment. The first thing that I want to point out is just visually speaking, when I look at this chart, I don't want to make bull entries at these levels. So the risk to reward of bull entries at this point is not favoring reward. And you can just look and see, okay, we made our bull break. The bull break was down in the low 7,000, 7,100 range. And at this point, we're up $1,200 from that point. That is about a 15% move with no consolidation on the daily time frame yet. I shouldn't say no consolidation because we had sideways consolidation, but I do not consider that a higher low yet. You can see this is all one bull move with a higher low every day. So if you were to say, where's our higher low on the daily time frame, I would say we have not established one yet from this bull break. We have support levels we can be looking at, and 7,760 is the low of that initial consolidation. So that is a support level. But as far as a daily higher low, we don't have one. So again, I do not like entries at this point unless I was looking for, $50, $100 scalps on the price of Bitcoin. We are looking for healthy consolidation to establish that higher low on the daily. Look at the exponential moving averages. The last time we had a bullish exponential moving average cross here on the daily time frame was when we formed our double top. But other than that, it hasn't happened in a very, very long time. So that's obviously a great sign for the bulls, and the odds that that is going to follow through are pretty high for right now. The bulls want to backtest and hold that level as support. You can see the last time we made the bull break and couldn't hold it on the consolidation. Ideal scenario would be very healthy consolidation, holding that level, looking for continuation. So zooming into the shorter term time frames, the 4-hour time frame, multiple inside bars forming. We had a beautiful equilibrium pattern that gave a nice entry signal, and that was my entry signal, which we'll go over in just a moment. But we had our high of the move, low of consolidation, lower high, higher low, and then we got our bull break. We didn't have to form a higher low before that bull break, and I'll show what a signal was for that. But right now where we stand, the 4-hour inside bar just formed. If you're looking very short term, 8,267 is your support, and resistance is 8,335. That's just to use the 4-hour inside bar. If we get a bull break towards continuation, we'll be looking up to 8,500 psychological as the next target, and we'll be looking at a bullish MACD cross on the 4-hour time frame. And we know more often than not that bullish MACD cross does indicate the potential for some continuation. So again, there is potential for another bull entry up at these levels, but you just need to be quicker, and it's a shorter term trade, knowing that the daily consolidation is coming sooner rather than later. So as long as the uptrend is intact, which it certainly is at this point, the hourly uptrend very clear. And here's what I used to make my entry on today's earlier trading. And it was right here where we had our high, low, lower, high, higher, low. And as soon as we started pulling back from this level, I said, all right, that's our new lower high, and that's at 8,087. And here in the chat room, just going back in time, where are we here? Lost my place. I'll find it in just a second. So scrolling back to yesterday's action, just looking at the new lower high of resistance is what was standing out to me. And you're just going to have to take my word for it. So I posted in the chat room, okay, that's our new lower high. If you want more detail and you want to be acting on a shorter term signal, looking at the 4-hour chart, the bull signal on the break of the lower high pattern wouldn't have happened until 8,150. If you zoom into the hourly chart, at that point, because we had pulled back and established a clear resistance level, that's our new lower high. And as soon as I saw this pullback, I put my stop order to buy in on a break of this resistance level. And we ended up getting a bull break very quickly after this consolidation. And what that reminded me of is the last time we broke the bullish equilibrium. And what happened was a fake out. So look at this dump. We had a tight equilibrium pattern and we pulled back, and the bull signal was on the V-shaped recovery from that pullback. Now, it was definitely a little bit of a different setup in this scenario, but what stood out to me was the pullback and then the V-shaped recovery. Again, zooming in shorter term time frame, here's what it looked like, where we started to pull back and it was just bulls. Big spike in bull volume, 15-minute move to the upside. And then from there, it was really a scenario where on the 5-minute time frame, I said, darn, I didn't want to get triggered in at that point. Because once I triggered in right here, the 5-minute time frame was already a bit extended. The RSI was approaching 70, and the fact that we went from that low right back to that level, ideally I would have wanted to enter on consolidation. And honestly, I didn't anticipate to get triggered in that quickly. So it came out of nowhere. I triggered in literally on this candlestick and entered my position. Probably had an average of about 8,100 once the fee was set. And then I said, all right, my stop loss is the low of this pullback. And if we look on the hourly time frame, it was the low of the hourly consolidation that was my stop loss level down here. So again, this is before the breakout. Actually, wrong spot. So this is before the breakout last night took place. This was my stop level. So we had the equilibrium pattern. The lower high was set. I set my stop level. I was triggered in. And I said, all right, if we lose this level of support, I want to be out of this trade, because that's going to tell me that 4-hour consolidation is very likely to get going. And that support was 7,975. So essentially, I was risking just over $100, maybe $125 on this trade. And the reward potential was continuation to higher highs and a target in the 8,300. So about 2-to-1 risk to reward. I was looking for a $250 move to get into the 8,300s, maybe 8,400. And the risk, again, was $125. So at that point, I said, all right, not the ideal trigger in for my order. I'm not as comfortable as I would like to be, but I got my game plan set, and that was my game plan before I even put my stop buy order. So I said, all right, I'm in it for the long haul, and long haul meaning until I get stopped out, and I didn't get stopped out. So that kept me in overnight, and we saw the bull break and able to profit. And at this point, I've already scaled out probably 85% of my position, just with some orders that I set before going to bed. And I set those in the 8,200s, and then I scaled out some 8,300s this morning, and now I'm patiently waiting on the rest for another equilibrium to form, which it looks like we might be getting on this hourly time frame. So what stood out to me, just pattern recognition, and not many people were looking at this, but if you just notice, we had a big surge in bull volume out of nowhere on the 15-minute time frame. I then counted 16 candlesticks on the 15-minute time frame in between another bull volume spike. We then had 16 candlesticks before another bull volume spike and another push to the upside. At that point, it was a double top at 8,150. So there stood out a pattern to me that we were seeing. I mean, at this point, it wasn't enough data to be confident in it, but it was just something to observe and notice. And the fact that the bulls bought the bear break significantly with a long lower wick, that added to the potential of bullish continuation. And just the fact that the hourly time frame continued to maintain just really tight. And then once we got that bull break, it maintained exponential supports the rest of the night. And last night, knowing I was in this position and knowing that I would want to change my order on GDAX, we can't place two orders at the same time if we're trying to, have a stop loss and sell. So I woke up every 2 hours, and once the bulls got comfortable on this breakout, that's when I moved my stop loss order and then started placing sell orders because I was very comfortably profitable at that point. So at this point, from the low of the dump, or I should say from the bull break initially to where we stand right now, I've taken my account more than 10% in the past 2 days. And had I held, I would have a couple more percent. But because I am exiting and taking my profit when I have it, I'm ensuring that I have that profit and locking it in. And I will always give up a couple percent to ensure that and to be able to rest easy and not have to, stare at things or risk giving back significant amounts of money if waiting for a stop loss to be triggered before I exit the position. So at this point, if we do get another bull break, unless I'm sitting at my computer and going to flip it, like I said, for 50 to 100 Bitcoin dollars, I'm not going to make any more entries at these current levels. I'm going to wait for the daily consolidation, and I'm going to enter on the higher low once I'm comfortable with that consolidation that has taken place. So the bottom line is the bulls are absolutely still in full control. Our closest support is, again, we can use these 4-hour inside bars, and we're going to see a break of this 4-hour inside bar likely within the next hour or two. And that will give us some more momentum. Again, it's still very healthy consolidation. If you are still in a bullish position, there's no reason to sell right now. Again, my reason for selling is taking significant positions and just wanting to lock in some of that profit. Because if I put a stop loss of a full order all at one place, there's going to be a ton of slippage there. So managing positions is a little bit more tricky. But congrats to the bulls who have rode it out to this point, and we're looking a little bit better on this weekly chart now. The closer we get to 9,000, the closer we are to the middle of the equilibrium. And again, if we get up to 9,000, it will be really, ideally 9,000, the low $9,000 would do it. But getting to the middle of this equilibrium range is the goal for the bulls, to have us looking at a 50-50 chance on which direction we're going to break. And again, I'm anticipating that break to be late May or in June for this weekly time frame. That's going to dictate momentum potentially for the rest of the year. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin. Litecoin has been weaker. It still is the case that we are struggling. Look at the day. The daily chart has not broken to higher highs yet, while Bitcoin very easily has. So we have a new higher low of support, a little double bottom down at 124 on this consolidation, and resistance is still 133.50, the top of this most recent bounce, and then our lower high on the daily of 137.89. Litecoin is still clearly a laggard and weak. And personally, it's not a scenario where I would say, I'm going to play this laggard. Recently, Ethereum was a scenario where I was saying I want to play this laggard because we were so beat up on the daily time frame. It was extenuating circumstances that had me take that play. Normally, I'm not going to take the weakest name because if it continues to act weak, you're just missing out on profit on the other name. So it's definitely a fine line to try and find a laggard play and play that play, or to play the strongest name, which has been performing well. And again, I usually will only play the laggard play if it's extenuating extreme levels of oversold that we know there's going to be some catching up to do, again, like Ethereum the past couple of weeks. So where we stand right now, I have no interest in Litecoin, and maybe later I will in a couple weeks, but right now it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum for me, and it's been that way for a couple weeks. So not really seeing a whole lot of action in terms of continuation. We do have inside bars on the 4-hour time frame, just like Bitcoin. Tightest range is 129.56, resistance is 131.20. And we're just watching for a break of this 4-hour pattern. But even if we break the inside bar, we still have multiple resistances before a clear break is going to take place. And just in terms of the consolidation, you look at this 4-hour chart, the little lower high and lower low I pointed out in the last video, whereas Bitcoin and Ethereum both formed a lower high and a higher low. Just little subtle differences. And again, the fact that the daily chart has not broken to higher highs is clearly showing Litecoin is a laggard to both Ethereum and Bitcoin, which are leaps and bounds ahead on this bounce so far. So checking Ethereum on the daily time frame, again, this is another chart visually that I look at this daily chart and I want no business entering for the bulls up at these levels. Risk to reward does not favor reward over risk at this point. We have now seen essentially 9 green days in a row. We're coming off of the lows, and we know we're going to top out sooner rather than later. Again, So we'll continue as long as Bitcoin continues, but once Bitcoin tops out, we'll look for Ethereum to top out, and we'll be looking for Ethereum to see, a decent pullback. At this point, I would be anticipating perhaps at least a 5% pullback at a minimum, I would say, on Ethereum. So same thing with the exponential moving averages here on the daily time frame. The last time we had a bull cross of these exponential moving averages was back down at the 300s before the huge run to the multiple all-time highs. So that's a good thing. That's a good sign for the bulls. Longer term, the weekly chart, again, has a lot of work to do to catch up to where we are with Bitcoin and Litecoin. We need to set the lower high, higher low, and higher high. But all in all, bulls very pleased with how this bounce has gone. Obviously, the gains are huge at this point, from the low in the 360s up now to 525. So very impressive daily inside bar bull break. And in terms of continuation, we actually just barely got it. Not a very convincing break. It's more of a double top right at 530 on Ethereum right now. Definitely something we need to be watching. But the 4-hour chart is giving us a nice little inside bar to be watching, just like everybody else. So it's essentially a cup and handle pattern here on the 4-hour time frame. Have to be watching this pattern where we have the left side of resistance. We are unable to break the left side of resistance, so we consolidate. We form the cup, and the right side cannot break the left side, essentially a double top. And we see healthy consolidation before a breakout. That's what the bulls are hoping for, and that would line up with a bullish MACD cross, but we need to see Bitcoin with a bull break of its 4-hour inside bars and some continuation as well. So Ethereum's really liking, bulls really liking this setup at this point. Short-term support is 520, and the longer-term support I'm looking at 488 and 484. So in terms of it all depends on the time frame of the trade and how much wiggle room you want to give it before you're stopped out. If you want to give short-term or a small amount of wiggle room, you're looking at the 4-hour inside bar breaking bearish and you would be out. If you want to give the trend and wait for the trend to break on the 4-hour time frame before you exit, you're using these levels on Ethereum. But again, you're going to be giving back about 7% of this move if you wait for the higher lows to be lost. So it all depends on how you want to juggle the risk to reward of your certain trade. And for me and my style, I would rather lock in a 5% move and miss out another 3% to the upside than not lock in a 5% move trying for more and end up having to take profit down at 2% because I lost 3% before I got stopped out. That's essentially what my game plan is for every trade that I make. So Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame, again, if you want to go with the trend, the last clear higher low is all the way at 7,875. So even if we do get a bear break of these 4-hour inside bars, we will keep the higher low pattern, at least initially, as the bulls attempt to form a higher low in the low $8,000 range. So overall, bottom line, as we head into tonight for the big three, the bulls are absolutely still in full control. There is potential for continuation, there's no doubt about it. And we're going to be looking at psychological resistances for Bitcoin. There's also a 4-hour resistance back up here. I'm looking at 8,670. And that was a little bounce attempt we had back on March 25th. We bounced up, we rejected from that level, and then the bears took over again. So that's the next price level of resistance, but we have psychological levels before that to be watching. And pretty much it's a comfortable overnight scenario to be in for the bulls. Aside from news crushing the price, it would be scenario number one. We get a bull break and continuation to higher highs with Ethereum confirming the cup and handle and Bitcoin heading up into the 8,500 range. Or scenario number two is further consolidation, which would be healthy on the 4-hour time frame. And we're very unlikely to lose the 4-hour higher low pattern overnight tonight, again, unless bearish news hits. We would look for, if we get a bear break of these 4-hour inside bars, like I said, a pullback into the low $8,000 range and a higher low to form. So pretty comfortable spot to be in for the bulls overall, especially with that MACD giving the potential for continuation. We could absolutely see another $200 on Bitcoin by the time we wake up. Well, it depends where you're at, but in the next 12 hours, we absolutely could see another $200 on Bitcoin if this momentum keeps up. We have exponential support that we touched and saw continuation on the 4-hour time frame. So all in all signals are bullish under the daily time frame. So all shorter term time frames absolutely still bullish, and just a question of when are the bulls going to run out of momentum on this move and set a temporary top. And we won't be confident of that until we lose the 4-hour higher low pattern, which isn't going to happen anytime soon. So let's look at some altcoins. And again, I'm comparing to Bitcoin. I know what Bitcoin looks like on the daily chart by the back of my hand, like the back of my hand, just by looking at it too many times a day. I know what Bitcoin looks like. So now I look at these altcoins and say, how do they shape up compared to Bitcoin? Are they stronger? Are they weaker? Are they correlating significantly? Are they doing their own thing? Those are all the questions that I want answered when I look at them. So looking at IOTA BTC, and this is on Binance, I can see on the weekly time frame, we're making a double bottom bull move. So a nice bounce off of support. And that double bottom is down here at 12.95 and 12 and 13. So essentially a little double bottom. We broke the lower high on the weekly as soon as we cleared the top of the last little bounce attempt, and that was at 17. So this started out as a bear flag. The first 2 weeks on this bounce, you say, okay, that's a weak bounce. That's a potential bear flag at this point. We need to be cautious of that. Then as soon as we hold the low, breaking the low would confirm the bear flag. We held the low, and then breaking the lower high told us the bulls were in control. So 17 was a bull break. Next resistance level, it's just lower highs every week. So we could pick out resistance at 2.2, 2.33, 2.38. So every week is a lower high to be watching. And in terms of being able to compare it to Bitcoin, you want to use the same metric. So comparing BTC USD to IOTA BTC is not really comparing apples to apples. So we need to be looking at IOT USD for that comparison, which we'll do in just a moment. But the daily time frame here, very clear, strong breakout on IOTA, and looking to say, okay, are we topping out now? And to see that, I look at a couple things. Number one, volume climax, absolutely potential for a volume climax on the daily. I look at the 4-hour chart and say, okay, are we still forming an uptrend? And the answer is yes. We haven't, just like Bitcoin, we haven't really consolidated and formed a 4-hour high or low anytime recently. So although this was a red candlestick, that's not a higher low, because you can see every single candlestick on this bull move is a higher low. We have to pull back, break that pattern, and form a higher low of clear consolidation. We have to have a point where the bears say, all right, we're done moving up, bulls. We have to pull back now, and then we look for that higher low. And that just hasn't happened at this point, as we did not confirm that bearish reversal candlestick. So zooming in more, I look for the hourly. Where's the last hourly higher low? And it's right here at 19,205. As long as 19,205 stays support, the bulls are absolutely in full control of this time frame. We do have upper wicks of profit taking. That's a signal on these volume climax candlesticks. The bulls could be running out of some momentum here. Again, not enough to break any of the trend, but just enough to say, all right, might be time for things to cool down. Just want to have an exit plan established if you're looking to lock in that profit before the trend changes. Hourly inside bar, multiple hourly inside bars currently forming. And again, it's the same thing as Bitcoin. The bottom line is the bulls are absolutely still in full control of this chart as long as the hourly higher lows hold. And even when we lose the hourly higher lows, we still have the potential of the 4-hour time frame forming a higher low somewhere in the 18s and keeping the long-term pattern still favoring the bulls. So here it is, IOT USD, and this is on Bitfinex. But again, just to compare to what Bitcoin looks like on the daily chart, and it's a very similar chart and a bit more powerful, favoring the bulls. You can see the inside bar and the bull break, and the percentage move that we made over our previous high is, roughly 6% plus, and Bitcoin hasn't gone 6% over our previous high in the 8,200s. We're still right near that area. So daily inside bar bull break, just acting on that signal alone, would have been a solid over 10%, about 13, 14% at this point. And just continuation of the move. The exponential moving averages have already given us the bull cross at this point, and shorter term time frames absolutely still in uptrends. So same thing, bearish reversal candlestick, no confirmation, so no clear higher low has formed. It is a higher low on the hourly, but not on the 4-hour. So hourly support 160 is the must hold level to keep the bulls in full control, and resistance is 170, and the next level after 170 I would be looking up at the 190 level, where a couple candlesticks topped out before that all out dump. So bulls still in full control on every time frame here. We are absolutely extended. Again, same thing I said on the other names, with the 4-hour RSI above 70. The hourly RSI is right around 70. If entering on bull breaks, you need to have a short-term mindset, because you missed, well, maybe you didn't miss it, but the majority of the move has taken place, and we will need healthy daily consolidation sooner rather than later. So again, just cautious up at these levels. The daily RSI is above 70 on this name for the first time since the all-time highs. That's notable. Doesn't mean we can't run a little bit more, but it definitely means things are getting a bit overextended. NEO USDT, and this is on Binance. So looking at a turnaround, the weekly time frame, lower high and lower low. So that tells me that we're weaker than Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, again, just a quick comparison. We look at the weekly, we held the low of the February dump, and we look at NEO, and it did not hold the low of the February dump. It dropped down to a lower low just like Ethereum did. So already the longer term time frame is a bit weaker than Bitcoin. Same kind of bounce on the daily, inside bar bull break for continuation, exponential moving averages looking for the cross. We know we're going to have to see a clear daily higher low established sooner rather than later, but there's no sign of slowing down. The 4-hour time frame is still all bulls with inside bars. And again, the amount of 4-hour inside bars that we're seeing across the board is a testament to the amount of correlation we have in all of these names. So we have an hourly higher low, nice huge bull volume on the breakout, declining, or I should say pretty consistent bear volume, but doesn't compare to the bull volume. With the higher low, 68 is now our must-hold level, and we're forming an equilibrium on this hourly time frame. 70-80 resistance. Support is 68. Just formed a lower high at 69.99. Might as well call that 70. And now we'll see if the bulls can form a higher low, which is likely. The volume is dropping off, as is the norm for the equilibrium pattern, and a break of $68 will be signal number one for 4-hour longer term consolidation to come. So again, it all depends on the time frame for your trade. Do you want to exit when the hourly higher lows are lost? Are you going to give the bulls more breathing room and maintain until the 4-hour higher low patterns are lost? Or are you going long and looking for the weekly chart to break bullish in 6 weeks? That's a potential trade as well. You definitely just want to protect it. BNB USDT on the weekly time frame, still favoring the bulls overall, tightening with a equilibrium, or I should say a inside bar on the weekly, which is giving us an equilibrium on the daily with our high, low, lower high, higher low, just barely a lower high. So key resistance up here is 1388 and 1397. And we're going to be looking for the bulls to consolidate and form a higher low compared to 1151 to maintain this channel. But this is the daily chart, and I would say we could stay in this channel for another week plus. But keep an eye, if you're a BNB trader, this is a scenario where you're saying, okay, the daily chart's tightening. Maybe there's more opportunity in other plays that are not forming equilibriums and tightening ranges, but you know to keep your eye on this pattern because, as we know, we've seen it with Ethereum on the weekly chart back in the good days of summer. We've seen it just recently with Bitcoin on the daily chart. When you get equilibrium bull breaks, it gives significant follow through. And if you are a trader and you only play daily equilibrium breaks, you're going to have a really high percentage, a win percentage. It's just people don't have the kind of discipline necessary to wait and miss or not trade for days and days while waiting for these clear setups to break out. That's what we're watching on BNB. Again, definitely one to watch over the next week or two, waiting for this pattern to break, and obviously still favoring the bulls overall because it's coming after a breakout. And if we do get a bull break, it's 1494 and then 1668 as the next two resistance levels. XRP, also weaker than Bitcoin, breaking the February dump lows. So the February dump lows, lower high, lower low, trying to bounce, not anywhere near changing the weekly trend, but the daily chart has a solid move. Another reason we're weaker than Bitcoin is we haven't broken to a higher high. We did break the daily inside bar bullish, but we did not break the top of the bounce at this point, which is still clear resistance at 708. So that's our resistance. Still haven't established a daily higher low of consolidation. And the 4-hour time frame last support was down here at 6207. So again, it's extremely similar to Bitcoin. 4-hour inside bars, key resistance. You could make the cup and handle argument for same as Ethereum. And at this point, we're just noting that it is slightly weaker than Bitcoin is. Hourly time frame, very healthy. If you're using the hourly support, it's down here at 667. So that is the short-term must-hold level. Lines aren't working. There we go. And patiently waiting for a break. And the bulls still have favor as long as hourly higher lows are intact. Gollum. Covered Gollum fundamentally for a while. Well, I was interested in it fundamentally. I gave that up. I don't hold fundamental plays through downtrends. Just, it doesn't matter how much I like the project. If the chart is telling me it's in a downtrend, I don't care what the fundamentals say, and that's just me as a technical trader. So I bailed long ago on Golem, but nice to see those that stuck it out getting some life here. And I was surprised at the reaction to this release of, I guess it was brass, or I honestly have fallen by the wayside, but I assume it's brass. Either way, I was astounded that we had known news. The date was known when it was coming out, and we still ran significantly after that. So that was a bit surprising. We're currently in consolidation mode on the daily. It's very healthy. We broke all kinds of lower highs of resistance. This was a very key resistance break back here. As soon as we cleared this double top, that was very notable and significant for the trend to change. So now it's healthy consolidation. We're going to look for a daily higher low to form. And how do we know the daily chart's higher low is forming? When the hourly chart shifts back from lower highs and lower lows during consolidation to higher lows and higher highs. So here's step one of the shift. We have broken the lower high pattern. Now in terms of following through, our higher low is established. That's here at 422. And now the bulls need to see a break of 4.6 to see confirmation of the trend change. So 422 and 4.6 is the tight pattern to be watching. And the bulls will look for continuation if we get a break of 4.6. And if that break does occur, I'll look for a daily equilibrium to form. That will be the daily higher low, then we'll bounce and set a lower high, somewhere likely in the low 50s, and just tighten up in an equilibrium, because again, those equilibriums are most common after a breakout or a breakdown when we're entering a new price territory that we haven't been in a while. It's a price discovery phase, and that's what's going on a lot of time frames with this recent bull break in the cryptocurrency space. So to wrap it all up in terms of where we stand in all these names, the vast majority of the hourly higher low patterns are intact. As long as that is the case, the bulls have absolute full control. A loss of the hourly higher lows will be signal number one for 4-hour consolidation. We can anticipate that 4-hour consolidation will still be healthy and will still maintain 4-hour higher lows at this point, because it's been so long since we have established our last 4-hour higher low. And then from there, we're going to be watching a loss of the 4-hour higher low pattern will indicate that the daily chart is now consolidating and needs to search for its higher low. So it's one time frame to the next, almost a domino effect. Lose the higher low on the hourly, you then look to the 4-hour. Lose it on the 4-hour, you then look to the daily. And again, not anticipating major support levels to be lost until tomorrow midday at the earliest. So again, it's an overnight session that favors the bulls. Certainly a lot more comfortable sleeping in a position if you are bullish at this point. You obviously want to always protect the trades, because there's always that, potential that we drop $400 on whatever article that comes out or who knows what. But at this point, it is smooth sailing for the bulls, and that's a great sign. Ideal scenario for the bulls, in my opinion, heading into next week would be to see those higher lows break, lose the 1 hour, lose the 4-hour, establish the daily higher low. Let's look at Bitcoin on where visually I'd be looking at here. So lose those higher lows on the shorter term time frames, establish a clear daily higher low. I would say if the Bitcoin bulls can hold 7,600, and every time we see continuation, that level moves up. So if earlier I was saying, ideal consolidation, 7,500, now because we've run harder, it would be more significant if we pulled back to that same level. So I adjust my target. I say, okay, now that we've seen continuation to a higher high, if I want that same kind of healthy consolidation, keeping the bulls in full control, at this point, just visually speaking, I would want to see them hold 7,600, because that would show, we could dip below these exponential moving averages, but ideally the bulls want to hold those levels on a pullback. So ideal scenario for a bull, lose those shorter term higher low patterns tomorrow or Tuesday, then set the daily higher low towards the end of the week and look for the bulls to try for continuation back towards the recent high next weekend. And that's, again, a lot of educated guessing in terms of timing of when things are going to happen. It's just something that I have in my head. I'll say, all right, ideal scenario would be for the bulls to hold that support level. That doesn't mean right now I'm going to place some buy orders at that level and just hope that that's the bottom, because there's so many details on the consolidation that will determine how significantly the pullback is going to pull back. And volume will be the number one indicator. If we see declining volume, we'll look for healthy consolidation. If we see increasing bear volume on consolidation, that tells me to lower my target, because the higher low on the daily will likely occur at a lower point if there's a significant amount of bear volume driving the price down. That's a mouthful, but it's getting exciting, because I really want to see the Bitcoin bulls make this move to 9,000 to make this equilibrium on the weekly time frame just picture perfect and to tighten up. And what it's going to give us, if this equilibrium continues playing out as I anticipate it to into end of May, early June, it's going to give us a setup where if we get a bull break, we're going to get a bull MACD cross on the weekly, and the price very quickly is going to be back over 10,000. So it's exciting that the bulls have this opportunity. You know, it's been so bleak ever since a week ago. It's been extremely bleak in the cryptocurrency space. And this would be, if we get a bull break of this equilibrium pattern in June, we're going to very likely see all-time highs in Bitcoin in 2018. And we can pretty much say if we break this recent high, that double top of 11,775, if we break that level with, you know, a couple months left in the year, I would be very confident in Bitcoin heading back to that all-time high. So there is absolutely still hope in this space, and this is just giving us a taste of it. And if we break bearish, it's a completely different scenario, and it's going to change everything. But that's what keeps things exciting, and we're going to continue to watch it day after day forever. Let's now take a couple. My throat's killing me right now. Let's take a couple requests for a couple altcoins, and we'll wrap it up here on our Sunday evening. I've never had a stop loss order on GDAX not fill. The only reason that would be if your limit order is too tight, or your limit on the stop is too tight and it gets skipped really quickly. I already did BNB. All right, I saw 2 OMGs. That's a winner. So OMG USD on Bitfinex, daily time frame. We had a huge upper wick of profit taking, so that looks a little bit like a short squeeze that we saw on the initial move up. Huge move. Inside bar did break bullish, but we're a lot further from breaking to a higher high just because that big upper wick was so huge. But overall, absolutely bullish. Higher low, higher highs, breaking the trend. Looking at the weekly chart, comparing it to Bitcoin, it's more bullish than Bitcoin. So we have the same higher low still maintaining compared to the February dump low. But look how close we are to breaking resistance. We got up 2083 resistance. We got up to 1743. And just visually, again, I go back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is nowhere near. That would be like Bitcoin being over 10,000 if we were comparative to where OMG currently stands on its weekly chart. So 4-hour time frame, last clear higher low established is 1312. So that's the longer term support. And the hourly higher low, I'm looking down, it's being tested right now, 1387. And this is a potential shift of higher lows and higher highs to a lower high and potentially a lower low if we break this 1388, 1387 level. So that is an initial, we're closer to losing the hourly higher low pattern than we are to the other names we looked at, but we also ran harder on the daily chart and the weekly chart closer towards resistance. All right, ADA. Then I want to touch on something relating the S&P 500 to Bitcoin. So ADA USD on Binance, daily time frame, inside bar bull break, heading to higher highs, breaking the top of the bounce. So similar to Bitcoin, next resistance is 2467. And in terms of support, 4-hour support was established at 1957. We are due for some 4-hour consolidation and a healthy higher low, and losing the hourly time frame, higher lows will indicate that's where we are headed. And that's 221 as the shortest hourly support to be watching. So what I want to point out on the Bitcoin weekly time frame is a comparison to the S&P 500. And I know I've been saying that there is a lack of correlation between stocks and cryptocurrency right now, and that's true on the day-to-day action, absolutely, which is what I watch. But I'm looking at the longer-term time frames, and it stands out to me that we are very clearly correlated to Bitcoin. And I say that, just look at the shapes of these patterns. Now, the all-time high for SPY was on, let's see, January 22nd. All-time high for Bitcoin, December 12th. So the timing's a little bit off, but the shape, you cannot deny the shape. The low of the pullback on Bitcoin was the week of February 5th. The low of the pullback on SPY was the week of February the 5th. The high of the bounce was March 12th. High of the bounce here was March 5th, so a week sooner. But then we pulled back. Our higher low established 2 weeks ago. SPY, higher low established last week. And now we have a bounce trying to play out to get us back to the middle of this equilibrium. This is a very, very similar pattern, and I've been saying the same thing with stocks. I'm looking for the bulls to make it to 270 to put us right in the middle of this equilibrium, to have it be a perfect equilibrium to continue watching. I'm looking for May to continue tightening this pattern, and I would be looking for a break later, second half of May or early June, and it's going to dictate significant trend changes or continuation of the trend for the bulls or the bears. This is going to be very important to be watching, as this correlation is so significant. So let's just overlay them onto the same chart just to compare before we wrap it up here. And again, we have the all-time high, the pullback, the lower high, the higher low, and now we're bouncing, trying to make our way back into the middle of that equilibrium. So it's very, very similar. A lot of people think that, the market or the Bitcoin could be a gauge. It's hard to say who's leading who. And at this point, because Bitcoin hit the all-time high first, it's almost like Bitcoin would be leading the markets a little bit. And that, I was struggling to think, why would Bitcoin be leading the S&P 500 with so much more money at stake? And so one of our members had a good point that it could be risk appetite, appetite for higher risk plays. And if you're comfortable in Bitcoin and the bulls are out in Bitcoin, then you're going to be comfortable in the stock market. And that's possible to be the case. And I'm going to be watching this again. The next 2 months are going to be very, very important for both Bitcoin and the overall stock market. So that's what we're going to be watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you all continue to do good things, continuing to get messages of people in their own world doing their own things, and I certainly enjoy that. One thing that inspired me today, Jackie Chan. I didn't know Jackie Chan's story, and he's certainly, if you're my age, Jackie Chan is the man. And he grew up with a really hard life. His parents abandoned him at 6, beat up, made fun of, all of that. And he didn't make it in America until he was 42, his first movie to actually catch in America. He had tons of failures and just a life full of struggle. But his attitude on life is so on point. But I want to use his example because, obviously our goal is to become financially independent by teaching ourselves the skills of learning technical analysis so we can be confident how to make money and trade. And there are things in life that are out of our hands that make that either easier or harder. What the situation we were born into, whether our parents had money, all of these things are out of our hands, and it makes it harder for some people and easier for some people. As we know, life is not fair, and it never will be, and that's just the bottom line. But one thing that stories like Jackie Chan, and there's stories everywhere of people that had all odds against them, and they ended up succeeding in life. So that tells you that it's possible. It's absolutely possible. You can grow up dirt poor on the streets and be homeless, and it's still possible that you could be successful in what you're looking to do. So it's inspiration to know that, there's 2 scenarios that we can react to on life's challenges and the situations, again, that are out of our control and might not be fair. We can either use that as our story and our excuse to stay stuck in that point, or we can use that as our motivation to work harder. And you know that we have to outpace the man or woman next to us to get ahead, knowing that we're at that disadvantage. So it's how you react to that situation, either using it as a motivator or an excuse that can really dictate the path that your life heads on. So check out Jackie Chan's story if you are interested. And there's so many instances, you can pick any time frame of life back in the 30s during the Great Depression, whatever it is, there's always people that came out against all odds and succeeded in a big way. So I appreciate you all. We'll be back tomorrow with a wrap up and the usual. And I hope you have a great rest of your night.